mountain climbing and crazy outdoor adventures and pushing the boundaries, But I had to I had to face down that that was not the way that was serving my body. I had I had to figure out how to get beyond that inflammation load. I had to free myself from that. The future is the present, you know?
Hmm.
So if I'm in the past, I'm in regret. If I'm in the future, I'm in worry. And so the only way you take care of all that in the mind is to be in the now. That took me 8 years to write that book, the first version. But I took action um, because I wanted to improve my situation.
Hi, I'm Greg Boyson. I'm the host of Inside Personal Growth, and I want to welcome Thais Gibson. She owns the Personal Development School, and she is sponsoring our podcast, and we are so pleased that she is. Now, she offers a program at the Personal Development School that I want to let you know a little bit about. She says the best relationship and lives don't just happen. You can make them happen. If you tried it at all and feel stuck, it might be due to your attachment style. This is the hidden force shaping your beliefs and behaviors. Thais Gibson at the Personal Development School has uncovered a method to transform your attachment style, helping you become your best self. With an all-access pass, you'll get on-demand courses, live webinars, and study groups for deep personal growth. And for my listeners, we're offering an exclusive 50% discount on the quarterly membership. That's just $149 every 3 months. Find the link in the show notes, and the discount will apply at checkout. Start transforming your relationships today. Thanks for listening to Inside Personal Growth. And please go to the Personal Development School, Thais Gibson, to learn more about your personal attachment style. Welcome back to Inside Personal Growth. This is Greg Voisin, the host of Inside Personal Growth. And joining me from Del Mar, California, not that far away. And I am such an honor because I don't always get to meet my authors. But he and I now have met a couple of times for coffee down at the coffee shop, the Better Buzz. I'm going to put a shout out to those guys because John and I like that place now, down in Del Mar on 15th Street. John, good morning to you. How you doing?
Greg, I'm doing awesome. So good to be with you.
Well, I'm going to let the listeners know a tad bit about you before we dive into the questions about the book. I'm also going to let the listeners know that they can reach you at www.vibrantuacademy.com. That's vibrantuacademy.com. That's where John has his coaching platform, and anybody listening can get more information there. So John is an inspiring author. This book is called Shadow Mountain: A Journey from MS to the Other Side of Impossible.
Shadow Summit.
Shadow Summit. Yeah, why did I say Shadow Mountain? Shadow Summit. Well, maybe it should be Shadow
Right.
Mountain. Metaphor. Metaphor. He's also the founder of Vibrant You, which I just mentioned. He was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis at the age of 27. John has spent decades redefining what it means to live a vibrant and fulfilling life. He is a full-time coach and author. Through his writing, coaching, and online academy, he empowers individuals to embrace challenges, unlock their potential, and live with purpose. His journey of resilience and transformation is a testament to the power of mindset, health, and perseverance. This is the guy that's sitting on the other side of the screen. And so, for all of you out there, we welcome you to the Inside Personal Growth podcast, Jon. And why don't we just kind of hit it off? I'll get the title right this time. The title of the book, Shadow Summit, it's intriguing, right?
Right.
Um, Mountains do uh give off shadows, right?
Mhm.
What does this phrase in the shadow of the summit you say lies the truth mean to you? And how has it framed your journey with MS?
Yeah, it's a great question. Um, the mountain is the metaphor that really represents the ego. So in the shadow of the ego is the truth. So I had I had to face my ego. I had to confront my ego. I mean, I had a big job with a technology startup, and um, the MS caused me to have to back away from that as a 35-year-old man. And, I was in the midst of, ready to explode, and your profession is everything, and it informs your ego. And I had to confront that. Um, and I had to confront my ego physically, because I was an athlete, all through school, and was running marathons and doing mountain climbing and crazy outdoor adventures and pushing the boundaries, but I had to I had to face down that that was not the way that was serving my body.
Well, you had a lot of uncertainty. Anybody with that, from what I understand, MS kind of creeps up on you. It just doesn't happen one day.
Right.
Um, and you describe MS as a disease that you say hides in the shadows.
Uh-huh.
Um,
Yep.
how has the invisibility of the illness shaped your personal and professional interactions? In other words, you know, you just didn't wake up at 27 and go, "Oh yeah, I got MS," right?
Right.
And I think any people out there today that are listening to the show that
Yep.
have MS,
Yep. Yep.
they realize the progression of this dis-ease.
Yep.
You deal with it because you and I have met so many times in person, so vibrantly. I mean, your company is called Vibrant You,
Right.
and if if it's mind matters, your mind matters because you're the kind of guy that's going to overcome this with the positive mental attitude, as they say. Because I
Right.
remember last time I saw you, and this is uh, I'm carrying on a bit here, but you said, "I'm going to run again," right? And here I see a guy with crutches, and he's saying he's going to run again. That's what you told the policeman out in front of your car, too.
Right. 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 That was helping me in my car as we're coming out of the coffee shop.
Yeah.
There's a policeman there, and he's talking, and there's some sympathy from him. And I'm like, you know what? Yeah, I'm dealing with this, but you know what? I'm gonna get through this, and I am gonna run again.
Yeah. Yeah. So what do you attest to kind of this invisibility and how it's played havoc with your psyche and your mental psyche and your emotions and everything else? Because we said our intention today was to speak with people that are dealing with some pain and or suffering that's messing up their psyche, and this has got to be one that really messes with you.
It does, because I look so able-bodied, and people have no idea that I'm dealing with it. So when I was first diagnosed, at 27, I could be in denial. And I could, I can in essence say, I don't have you. And I could try not to associate with the disease, which was good. It was a good coping mechanism, and it allowed me to do great things over the first 8 years. But during that time, it was creeping in, and I was, over those first 8 years, slowly losing mobility, functionality. I lost my mental acuity and ability. Um, my hands were numb. I lost feeling. Um, I was falling down, and um, but I'd always get up and I could always just kind of brush it off and be in denial, like, oh, yeah, I don't have you. That's just a momentary thing. Um, and But it messes with you because over time, it wears you down.
Yeah, well, you can tell, you have changed your lifestyle, obviously, but you also talked about the role of denial in your journey,
Yep,
especially early on, right? It's like, I think a lot of us go into denial when
yep.
got something physical going on. Oh, that's
And
not happening. So, what was the turning point where you began to accept and integrate your MS diagnosis into your life? When
but
did that really happen?
Yeah, so that was 8 years in after the diagnosis, and, um, at work, I'd failed an online test at work because my mind was going in circles, and I was a project manager for 8 years and more or in the company, for 95% longer than most of the project managers in the company, and yet I couldn't keep the concepts straight. I'm a I got a grad degree from MIT, and, you know, to for my mind to be going in circles, that was really scary, and I was in a speaking course at work, as well, and my mind and mouth lost connection, you know? I was not fluid, and my voice was also muffled, and so, the combination of these things showed me that I was in trouble, and I got the courage to ask the company I worked for a full month leave of absence to improve my health at the Optimum Health Institute in San Diego. And I took that step. I mean, so, a question you're gonna ask me is, what was the first step? The first real important step was facing my ego
Yeah.
and and asking my the company for 4 months off because that's corporate suicide. Asking, when you're in
Yeah.
it is. It is. When you step away from the line like that and show weakness, if you show weakness like that in a corporate setting, I mean, that it doesn't always play well.
Well, the good thing about you is your determination. You reinvented yourself. Let's face it, a lot of people out there today that think they need to live the corporate lifestyle, they have a lot of fear. Well, you had two fears. One, you had the MS, and two, you probably are afraid you're going to lose your job. And three, then you start considering the finance part of it as well. Like,
Right,
hey,
right.
what am I going to do now? I wasn't expecting this, right? This wasn't something expected. Although life does send us kind of messages that we need to learn from. Yours is protracted because the MS has advanced a little bit further.
Yep,
But I want to talk about this role of physical and mental fitness, right?
yep, yep,
That's you're a coach, so you're coaching
yep,
people all the
yep,
time.
yep,
And in the pursuit of these physical challenges, like you used to climb 14,000 feet summits and run marathons and all these kind of things.
right.
How did those physical endeavors influence your mental strength in dealing with MS? Because when you first got it, you were still doing that,
Right,
right?
right, right, right.
And now you're telling me I can't walk a half a mile down on the beach. Um,
Right.
right? So obviously it's progressed
Yep.
and you've seen it progress. And so this real personal question, how do you deal with that progression every day and what's in your mind?
Right. Um, and I'm always looking for ways to improve my condition, you know? I mean, 20 years ago, I was in big trouble and I looked for ways to improve my condition, which is where I did that raw vegan detox. You know, a year ago, my MS morphed from relapsing remitting to secondary progressive. And I that's a wake up call. And I
Is
didn't
that when
take
you changed your diet?
that's when I
When you
changed
went
my
to all fats,
yeah,
no carbs? So you're on the
yeah. I'm a,
right,
I'm 100%, I'm paleo keto, I 5% of my calories come from carbs. 5%, you
right.
know. I mean, a lot of people, 95% of their diet comes from carbs. And that's bad for me because it leads to inflammation in my body. And so I had I had to figure out how to get beyond that inflammation load. I had to free myself from that. And I know
But you've done it.
and
You've
I've
done
done
it.
it. I'm
You
out the other side, Greg.
you did tell me it is hard to live off of just fat
Uh-huh.
and your body isn't process it, but you have gotten rid of the inflammation.
Uh-huh.
Uh, so I'd say one of the things you wrote about was the importance of focusing attention where it counts.
Uh-huh.
And so that's one of the things where you focused your attention where it counts.
Right.
How do you, John, prioritize what truly matters in this, like we live in such a noisy world today.
Uh-huh.
Uh,
Uh-huh.
and I know you're a meditator, and I know
Yes.
that that's been a journey of yours and mindfulness and meditation and a
Yes.
spiritual practice. But how do you help people who you coach get out of all of these demands and prioritize what truly matters and remove themselves from such this demanding world and put themselves in a space where they can be more creative, more healthy, and contribute more to
Yep.
their family, to the world at large, and live their purpose?
Yep.
What would you tell them?
So, I've come up through my journey, I've realized that there's really 7 key elements to life, and those are of what I call the 7 vibrants. And aligning with those is really important because I leak energy. Literally, my nerves leak energy because they're afraid. Okay. And so understanding those 7 energies, there's physical energy, there's emotional energy, there's professional energy, there's financial, social through the voice, mental, and spiritual. So I'm very mindful of how I use each of those 7 energies. And those 7 energies define 99% of life. And so I've got my operating system, my personal operating system fine-tuned to be mindful of those 7 energies, all day long, you know. I'm mindful of the 99% of what powers my life. And that has that's allowed me to free myself from the noise, you know?
It's really, I think it's very clever. These vibrant U's, or the 7 of them that
Yep.
you basically teach your coaching clients.
Yep.
Um, you mentioned them really kind of toward the end of the book,
Yep.
without giving too much away.
Right.
The principles in those to the listeners would be important. So, can you tell us what that you did briefly mention the 7,
Yep.
but what
Yep.
those 7 are, and anybody out there today facing something, how realizing where they are on the Severin vibrance, right?
Yeah.
And how to actually look at it as a whole,
Yep.
because it is a whole. I mean,
Yep.
when
Yep.
people look at their chakra, the
Yes.
crown chakra here,
Right.
and moves through the energies of our body.
Right.
I don't remember how many chakras there are, but maybe there's 7.
There are 7.
Okay, okay.
The vibrants are aligned with the chakras. Okay. So the physical is the root chakra down at the base of the spine. Emotional is the emotional vibrant at the sacrum. Profession is at the sacrum. Um, excuse me, at the solar plexus. And then the heart is financial. The financial
Throat.
The throat chakra is social, the voice, all the words.
Mm,
The mind is the mental chakra, all your thoughts. And then spiritual is the crown chakra. And
yeah.
so each of these 7 energies um, allow me to understand, am I connecting with people? Am I really connecting with people? Because connection energy fuels me. You know, my thoughts, my mind, are my thoughts serving me or not? Am I positive or negative? What time state am I in around my thoughts? Am I in the past, the present, or the future? The only place I can really live is the present. The only thing that can affect the future is the present, you know?
Mhm.
So if I'm in the past, I'm in regret. If I'm in the future, I'm in worry, And so the only way you take care of all that in the mind is to be in the now, you know?
You know,
And
there's
that,
an old statement that my mom used to use, God bless her.
yeah, yeah,
She used to say, "Yesterday's a canceled check, tomorrow's a promissory note. The only thing you have is today. That's it."
yep,
I understand that, but we have so many people in this world that you coach, that I coach,
yep,
that allow the mind takes them to this um, a false expectation appearing real, fear.
yes,
I'm not going to have enough. I'm going to be broke. I'm go whatever it is going to be
right,
that they live. 99% of the time, that never happens.
uh-uh,
But
uh-uh,
I have always said, that we live, John, in a world of making stuff up. Then we believe the stuff we made up. So then we end up living what we made up.
right,
But yeah, yeah.
which doesn't serve us, you know? Like all those narratives that we spin up in our mind, and we're all really creative. Let's get let let's just call it out.
Yeah.
That's one thing everyone on this session is creative. And they can spin up some crazy narratives, and those do they serve you or not? A lot of times, most of the time, they don't. And so how do you ground all that stuff? you know, because that is, the focus is what do you want? What do you really want? And that should really focus your energy and your action, and how do you work on what you want?
What do you tell people? As I always say this to people that are coaches, because part of the job of a coach, advisor,
Yep,
is to help somebody, and I'm just going to use this word because it works,
yep,
is to help people get unstuck.
uh-huh,
Okay.
yep,
And when they get stuck, they're in a rut. And look,
yep,
you've had your share of ruts. I've had my share of ruts. You even said that as this diagnosis with MS came up, that your relationships, when you were really had to be more open, you know, I'm sure you found yourself in ruts at time telling people, and being so open had an impact, right? So
yep,
my question for you is, if somebody out there listening's in a rut, speaking from two folks who've been in plenty of ruts, what a rut or that they're stuck, what's the best advice you would have to trigger something they could do that would interrupt that thought pattern and move them beyond the rut or the stuckness?
Talk to one person. Just start talking to one person
Yeah.
because you speak your truth, right? The words you stitch say speak your truth, and you'll inevitably talk about maybe what you're dealing with, but inherent within that is you'll speak what I want is I want to feel better. I want to be better, you know. That desire needs to bubble up and come out of you. And the only way for that to happen, to go from internal to external, is to speak with someone. And that's really key, is to externally reflect what is happening inside your truth, you know?
So to be honest with yourself, right?
Uh-huh.
And I think, a lot of times we hide from being honest. We push it under the carpet. We don't want to
Yep.
deal with our feelings.
Yep.
Having MS, you've had to deal with every feeling and emotion you could imagine, including, how do I manage these relationships with people in my family, with people outside of my family, with my clients, with all of that. And it's quite a journey you've taken, and my hat's off to you, and I acknowledge you because it has been something that's not only transformed your life, but the actual impact that somebody like you can have on other people who aren't dealing with what you're dealing with, is truly a blessing, right? I know
Yes.
there's times maybe you don't feel like it's a blessing. So,
No, it is.
yeah,
And and
it
and
is.
and it doesn't serve me to look at it any other way
Right.
as a blessing. Greg, the fact that you bring that out, that's thank you. That's, and those things you said, thank you. But
Well, you're like you and I have met a couple of times now, and now we're on this podcast. And the reality is, we've become really close and shared a lot of things about our businesses and our life and whatever. And
yep.
it is has a lot to do with somebody who's been empowered to work their way through something so monumental that has actually helped me break out of certain things too and be totally honest and truthful, you
Yeah.
know. So, you your book highlights the power of storytelling, and you're a great storyteller. What role did writing Shadow Summit play in truly, and I'm going to hold the book up for the listeners.
Yeah.
Um, did it play in your own healing and growth?
Yep.
Because, right, this is as much a memoir as it is a book about people's personal growth, about how you grew.
Yep. 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 And so that took me 8 years to write that book, the first version.
Yeah.
It took me 8 years. I mean, you know, I was not I was not a writer of narrative prose. I mean, I was a rational guy. I was 100% rational. And in order to write narrative prose, you have to integrate the rational and the intuitive, the
Mhm.
intuitive feeling. And I was I was emotionally illiterate, you ask my son's mom, I mean, I was emotionally illiterate. And that's what the experience of the book taught me, was how to get in touch with my emotions, because you can't write a book of narrative prose without being in touch with emotion, because all's emotion is the emotional current of a story, I mean, um,
Yeah,
you know
well, you did a good job of it, and I want to acknowledge you for that, and I want to encourage our listeners to actually go to Amazon. We'll put a link, get a copy of the book, and actually go to your website. And really, you couldn't be coached, and I'm saying this selfishly, by a better person. So if you're looking for a coach and you're in a rut or you're stuck or you think you're dealing with a life changing challenge, you you couldn't be with a better coach than somebody who's already dealt with it. So
Right.
my hat's off to, like, go to John and see if you're really experiencing that pain or suffering. and you're listening today and you'd like some help, I'm going to say go see Jon. Go
Right.
check
And that,
out his website.
yeah. And as a coach, really, I listen. That's really what I do. I listen to people and I mirror back their truth,
Mhm.
and that's what a coach ultimately does is assist people to live the life they want to live. I mean, that's my goal. That's my purpose is to assist people to live their best life according to their innate, abilities and skills, and that's what a coach does.
Well, you're a good listener, that I would say. Now, looking ahead, what is kind of next for you, and how do you plan to continue inspiring others
Yeah.
with your stories and your lessons? You're a coach.
Right.
You and I have talked about you putting this stuff online.
Yep.
You've got lots of dreams and aspirations.
Yep.
But I think for our listeners, it's like, okay, Jon's a coach. I can hire him to help me.
Yep.
I could read his book, but
Yep.
I want to let listeners know he's got a full-on course. This Vibrant You, the 7 Vibrants, is
Yep.
very well laid out, right? And truly go to Jon's website and contact him because he has so much more content than is what's on his website.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Is that what's ahead for you? Is making the course available for people that need to get it at a reasonable price? And
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. I've been perfecting it over the last 11 years. And so now I know it works. And now I need to figure out a way to make it more available to everyone, you know, more mass market available, you know, to because my goal is to touch more lives because I believe everyone has their own best life within them
Mhm.
and a lot aren't manifesting it, to use your words, Greg. You know,
Right.
they're not actualizing it. They're not taking action to manifest their best life. And so,
Or we might say, Jon, that they might be, but because of the ego, which is where you started from here,
yep, yep, yep,
the ego has always told them they're not enough.
yep,
And until they can turn off that story that, what you do every day isn't enough, you got to do more. You weren't the straight A student from MIT or wherever you graduated. You didn't become that doctor. You have to truly become who you want to become.
right,
And you can't let the outside world actually mold you into something different because you are then going to struggle.
right,
You are going to have pain and suffering and beyond belief. So if you want to reinvent yourself, go to somebody like Jon to get reinvented
right.
and use the Vibrant You content to do that.
R-
What are the last words you'd want to leave our listeners with, Jon, with relation to like some epiphany that they may want to try and discover either on their own or with you that would help them transmute, and I say this openly, transmute some area in their life where they don't feel good about themselves, their weight, their physical health, their emotions, their relationships. What might you say could be like an egg that breaks open and says, "Yeah, here it is. Scramble me."
Yeah. I mean, it's take a step, you know, take a step, either it's a step forward or a step back or a step up or a
Right.
step down. Who knows?
Right.
Just take action and begin to move in the direction you want. And it doesn't have to be the perfect step, you know?
Right.
It doesn't. Like like my story is messy. I took a lot of, step back, step down, fell down. At times I was all over the place. But but I took action um, because I wanted to improve my situation, you know?
Well, you're a perfect example of taking a step because you have MS. So you couldn't have used a better analogy because I had watched you. Every one of your steps is intentional. And rightfully so. We talked about slowing down.
Yep.
John obviously has slowed down, folks, but I watched how every step has such meaning for you. So I want to thank you for being on Inside Personal Growth, sharing your story. Again, for all of my listeners, you're going to go to www.vibrantu, Vibrantu, the U, academy.com. There you can learn more and you can get in touch with Jon. You can pick this book up at all your best booksellers, but we'll put a link to Amazon. Jon, honestly, I can't wait for my listeners to get a hold of this podcast and to get in touch with you. And I really appreciate you. Namaste to you. Thanks for being on the show and spending some time sharing your story and journey with MS, how you've overcome some of your challenges, and really how people out there can move through the pain and suffering.
Yes. Greg, thank you so much. Just thank you for allowing me just to share and to see if I can, touch someone. Who knows?
You are. Namaste, my friend.
Namaste.
Thank you for listening to this podcast on Inside Personal Growth. We appreciate your support. And for more information about new podcasts, please go to InsidePersonalGrowth.com or any of your favorite channels to listen to our podcast. Thanks again, and have a wonderful day.